If you've been scrolling through endless camera specs, watching side-by-side videos, and still feel like you're stuck in a loop of which one actually works for my setup, you're not alone. That moment of hesitation is what this review is meant to clear up. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. I've spent a good chunk of the past week testing the BirdDog P240, throwing it into a few typical scenarios you'd encounter if you're streaming a church service, a small-scale live event, or just upgrading your YouTube studio. The goal here isn't to list every spec on a sheet, it's to walk you through the real-world experience, the value you get for the price, and the pitfalls that might make you think twice. First off, the biggest question most people have with a PTZ camera is whether the zoom and focus feel reliable enough that you won't be constantly tweaking during a live shoot. The P240's 40x optical zoom is definitely a headline number, but the practical nuance is in how it handles the transition from a wide audience shot to a close-up on a speaker. In my tests, the motorized zoom was smooth enough that you could set a preset and have the camera glide from a 30-foot wide angle to a 2-foot tight frame without any noticeable jitter. The autofocus, while not as fast as a dedicated DSLR, was confident enough that once you lock a subject in the middle of the frame, it stayed sharp, even when the person moved a little left or right. That makes a big difference for anyone who isn't sitting in front of the camera all day, because you can trust the system to stay focused while you handle the audio mix. Low light performance is another common pain point. The P240 doesn't claim to be a full-frame sensor, and indeed it's a 1/2.8-inch CMOS, so you won't be pulling moonlight out of a dark church like a high-end cinema lens. However, in a dimly lit conference room with just a few overhead LEDs, the image stayed usable. Noise did become more pronounced when you pushed the gain past ISO 800, but the camera's built-in noise reduction algorithm kept things from looking grainy at the typical streaming bitrate of 1080p. If you're planning to stream in a venue with decent stage lighting but low ambient light, the P240 will hold its own. If you need to shoot in near-dark conditions, you'll probably want to add an extra light source. Stabilization is a feature you rarely think about until you actually need it. The P240's PTZ head includes a basic electronic image stabilization that helps smooth out minor vibrations from the motor when panning quickly. In a controlled studio environment, the effect is subtle, but on a portable tripod at an outdoor event where a gust of wind caused the mount to shift, the stabilization kept the image from wobbling dramatically. It won't replace a gimbal for high-speed moves, but it does make the camera feel more forgiving when you're doing quick zooms or pans on the fly. Now, the menu system. For a camera that's meant to be controlled remotely via NDI, HDMI, or 3G SDI, the interface has to be intuitive enough that you don't need a tech support line hanging around. BirdDog kept the on-screen menu relatively clean, with primary controls for zoom, focus, iris, and preset management. The only real friction point was the depth of the settings hierarchy. To adjust the white balance curve, you have to dive 3 levels deep, which can be a little clunky if you're trying to make a quick change during a live broadcast. That said, once you set up your presets ahead of time, you rarely have to touch the menu midstream, so most users won't feel the friction unless they love tweaking on the fly. Battery confidence is a practical concern that often gets overlooked because many PTZ units are powered through the video cable or a separate power brick. The P240 ships with a standard 12-volt DC input, and most reviewers, myself included, preferred to run it off a dedicated power supply rather than relying on internal batteries. If you do decide to use the optional battery pack, expect about 4 hours of continuous operation before you need to swap. That's fine for a typical half-day event, but for anything longer you'll need a backup plan. The good news is the power connector is lock-in, so you won't lose power due to a loose cable during a critical moment. Who should buy this camera? If you're a hobbyist streamer who wants a single camera that can handle wide-angle room shots and occasional close-ups without a crew, the P240 is a solid bet. Its 40x zoom and reliable autofocus let you cover a whole venue from one point, and the NDI output makes it easy to bring into a simple OBS setup. Small churches, community centers, and school auditoriums that need a set-it and forget solution will find the P240's preset system a real time saver. Likewise, a freelance videographer who needs a portable PTZ for on-location interviews where you can mount the camera on a lightweight tripod and